Bridging exercises are one of the best core strength exercises we can do to build the weakened core muscles up without putting a lot of strain into the back. It also helps effectively increase the coordination between the glutes, core muscles, and low back so that we can get through our daily activities. The sequence is going to build itself up where we start in easy position and then make it harder and harder. We start with 2 feet apart, where we're slowly lifting our waist up in the air, pausing, and slowly going back down. The top of the position is when we could draw a straight line between the knees to the hip to the shoulder. We want to concentrate on slow and smooth movements up with the waist. We don't want the waist to wobble, shake, or sway side to side as we're going through the exercise. Concentrating on a slow up and even slower down to help build the coordination through the muscle groups. This is not an explosion exercise. We want to make the little guys work harder, so that's why we're emphasizing the slow controlled movements. So we always start with bridging 2 feet apart. If we're having pain at, say, the top position, where every time you come near the top it hurts, well then don't go that far. Stay in a pain-free zone. You can go from the bottom of the table up a few inches, pausing, and back down. Likewise, if it hurts at the bottom, you could work from the top to the middle, but staying out of the pain zone. Once we're able to do 3 sets of 10 with our feet apart, we're going to move to the next set of positions. The progression is 2 feet apart to then 2 feet together. Once we master this 3 sets of 10, we can start working on a single leg modified, where we have just a heel of 1 foot down and we're keeping most of our weight on the other leg. This helps us progress to the single leg modified, where we have the up foot on top of the other. In this position, more of our strength is going to be required of the down leg instead of the top leg, let's say 70% strength, so that finally we can move to where just doing a single leg bridge, where we keep the up leg bent. We're going to try and keep the quad parallel as we lift through the exercise, and the hardest position is with the leg straight out in front of us. Whereas we go to lift, we're once again going to keep the quad parallel, and we're not going to toss our waist. This position is significantly harder than 2 feet together, and we'll feel ourselves struggle so much more with 1 foot instead of 2 feet. So now let's come back down, and we'll work with 2 feet together, and we'll do 2 of those with a nice slow controlled up and slow controlled down. It doesn't seem like much, but moving those 2 feet closer together makes this exercise significantly harder. The next position is the single leg modified with just the heel on the ground. So we're going to use slightly less strength out of that down, the modified leg, slow, smooth, and controlled once again. As the exercise gets harder, there's that tendency to toss the hip or move faster and faster, and we're going to try and avoid that with slow and controlled movements. And now we can put 1 foot on top of the other, where the arch of the foot sits on the arch of the other foot, and slow up and slow down. You can see how this exercise is becoming more difficult, so always concentrate on slow, smooth, and controlled motions. The next exercise position is the single leg bent, where we're going to bend 1 leg, focusing on keeping the 2 quadriceps parallel to each other, not tossing the hip. It's not uncommon to feel that hip dip downwards. As we get stronger, we'll be able to keep them level till finally we can straighten the leg at the knee, keeping a single leg and slowly lifting up and slowly coming back down. Now if we go to 2 feet together again, we can check to see if we can make this exercise a little bit easier. If we tense our glutes before lifting and find that this makes the position so much easier, it tells us we're not firing our glutes quick enough, and by putting a little bit of tension and tightness, this is help activating the core muscle sequence to work together. We can also tighten our belly button before lifting. So if we tighten the belly button towards the spine an inch or two before lifting our waist up in the air, we're activating that transverse abdominis and other core muscles to engage quicker. If we find that this makes bridging easier, then tense your belly button before lifting the waist. Finally, we can tense our low back before lifting our waist up. Once again, we're looking for a deficit, so if this makes the exercise easier, activating your low back muscles before lifting the bridge will be to your advantage. Finally, if we find that we're struggling in any position, or it starts getting too difficult, or our hamstring feels like it's tightening or going to cramp, just stop. Once your hamstrings are becoming involved, it's telling us we're not using our core and our glutes anymore, so there's no point in forcing our way through the exercise. We don't want to be using our hamstrings or our glutes to raise we don't want to be using our hamstrings or our quadriceps to be raising the waist. We want this to come from our glute, core, and low back. So don't force the exercise, do what's comfortable. If it hurts, stay out of that zone. And once you feel yourself struggling, just make the exercise a little bit easier by changing the foot position, focusing on slow and controlled movements, 3 sets of 10 in each position in a pain-free zone.